We're cracking open all of the Easter eggs and comic book references in the first episode of HBO's Watchmen. The first episode of HBO's Watchmen, the sequel/ode to the iconic graphic novel adapted by Damon Lindelof, finally hit the small screen, and holy hell, we are on board! Set 34 years after the events of the original comic series, the show has everything you'd expect and want from Watchmen. Cool characters, an interesting mystery, excellent world building, and current events political commentary. But another thing this pilot episode has, other than a banging soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, is a ridiculous amount of Easter eggs and references to the graphic novel. Seriously, it's packed to the, whatever squids use as gills. Not gills? Anyway, it's packed to the not gills, and we would be remiss if we didn't break down all the references and Easter eggs in the first episode. So let's do this. Obviously, there will be spoilers for the first episode of the HBO series from here on out, so if you haven't seen it yet, make like the comedian and exit this story right at the beginning. After the violent opening that is a depiction of the real events that occurred in 1921 Tulsa, the first Easter egg is a reminder to the audience that this is indeed the same world. We see a truck retrofitted to run on battery power, a reference in the comics to all cars going electric thanks to energy hydrants and Dr. Manhattan creating enough lithium for batteries, something we'll get into more in a moment. It's also in this scene that we get another reference that is going to run throughout this whole season, Rorschach's mask and how it has been co-opted by the white supremacist group, the 7th Cavalry, presumably after Rorschach's journal was published by the New Frontiersman at the end of the Watchmen book. Then we get a pretty obvious callback to an iconic piece of Watchmen imagery, an egg yolk smiley face complete with blood spot. This is definitely meant to evoke comedian's famous smiley face pin. But that's not the only on-the-nose reference in this scene. There's an Anatomy of a Squid poster, which feels like a reference to the alien squid that attacked New York. There's a nod to Vietnam being a state, thanks to Dr. Manhattan, and a poster with Richard Nixon and Robert Redford listed as important presidents. Nixon won a 3rd, 4th, and 5th term, and it's hinted at the end of the comic that Robert Redford would run for the office. References to these two political figures will run deep through, well, probably the whole show. Next, we get more squids, this time raining from the sky. Whether these are truly interdimensional attacks, remnants of Veidt's original squid attack on New York, or a government conspiracy to keep the peace by presenting a constant threat, well, that remains to be seen. This one is less of an Easter egg, but it is a direct glimpse of a live 24/7 feed of Dr. Manhattan on Mars, so obviously he's been there a while. As Angela Abar visits her bakery, we get a bunch of Easter eggs at once. There's a protester with a "The Future is Bright" sign that directly contrasts the sign Rorschach carried in the comic, "The End is Nigh." There's a newspaper headline that swears Adrian Veidt is officially dead, although we're not sure audiences are convinced. There's also an airship and a bus advertising the TV show American Hero Story Minutemen, showcasing Hooded Justice. The Minutemen were the group of heroes that were the precursors to the Watchmen in the comic. We even see this show referenced with a commercial that has a bunch of the heroes in it: Comedian, Silk Spectre, Night Owl, Dollar Bill, and Hooded Justice. Later, when Tulsa Police Chief Judd Crawford, played by Don Johnson, plays the 7th Cavalry speech, the white supremacists reference one of Rorschach's most iconic lines with, "We will whisper no." Also in that scene, Judd Crawford recites in Latin, "Who watches the Watchmen?" But don't worry, we won't put you through our attempt at Latin. It's worth noting that Crawford also has a copy of Under the Hood on his desk, which is the autobiography of the original Night Owl, Hollis Mason. Another reference to Rorschach is arguably with Detective Looking-Glass's mask, an interesting take on Rorschach in that his disguise reflects what's going on around him. In his interrogation scene in the pod, we also see that Nixon has been added to Mount Rushmore, a reality we were spared in our world. We also hear someone on the radio mention that Joe Keene Jr. is running against Redford for president. In comics, the elder Joe Keene is the person responsible for outlawing masked vigilantes. Another one of the more fun references was given by Jeremy Irons, who is most definitely playing Adrian Veidt, aka Ozymandias, in some way. Although we're sure there will be some sort of twist, since the show's creators have been coy about his character. Turns out, probably who you think he is, has written a play called the watchmaker's son, an obvious reference to John Osterman, aka Dr. Manhattan, whose father was a watchmaker. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to see this play because we already got a production of Oklahoma. Oklahoma. During the tense shootout at the Cavalry House, there is the big reveal that the police have an airship similar to the owl ship used by Night Owl 2. We doubt it's the same one, and it's more likely that this is a tool available to all law enforcement. Also at the cattle ranch, there's a poster with the hero dollar bill, and later, when one of the 7th Cavalry uses the suicide pill, this feels like a visual callback to how Ozymandias kills the assassin who comes for him in the graphic novel. Also, when Angela and Judd discuss the cavalry's plans after dinner, Angela says that the cavalry were collecting old watch batteries with synthetic lithium, which Dr. Manhattan created in the book in order to make batteries for electric cars. Turns out, synthetic lithium gave people cancer, which also feels similar to the plot Veidt put in place in the book of giving people close to Dr. Manhattan cancer to convince him to leave Earth. Maybe Adrian's lie was closer to the truth than we thought. Finally, the episode ends on a great Easter egg as blood drips onto the police chief's badge. Not only is this another reference to comedian's pin, but the comedian's death is what kicks off the book, and we would argue that Crawford's death is going to help kick off the mystery of this whole series. Also, the blood on the pin is one of the most iconic images in Watchmen. There was no way they couldn't do a callback to it. Overall, there is a ton going on in this show. Like the source material, this HBO series seems to be a very layered story, and there might be callbacks that we won't even catch until the season finishes up. To be honest, it is from one of the guys who brought us Lost, so we should have expected this from the beginning. But for now, we're on board. But what do you folks think? Did you catch any other Easter eggs from the original Watchmen novel? Which was your favorite? And what's going on with Adrian Veidt? There's something weird at play there. Let's discuss. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, why not give us a like and subscribe? If you want to get notified every time we go live with a show or drop a new video, feel free to mash that little bell so you can be up to date on all the latest theories, news, and rumors in the pop culture world.